So we ended on cardinality, and we've looked at a lot of the relational model. We've seen so much of it, but yet we haven't hit the main point of what makes the relational model the relational model. And that is the ability to link relationships between different types of data. If we look over here, we can see something called the primary key. And so the primary key, in essence, is a key. Now, you may be thinking, okay, well, yeah, I can read too, primary key. But what this is something that uniquely identifies your data. We've always seen this in most of the tables that I've shown you. We've seen the ID field there. And we've seen it uniquely identify each and every row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is a unique identifier. It uniquely identifies each and every row. And why is that important? Well, uniquely identifying each and every piece of data means that we can now know for certain the person with ID 1 is Mo Bini. Now it's great, I'm number 1. I'm not trying to say that. But what I'm trying to say here is that because of the ID being the primary key being the term that we use to say this is the thing that's uniquely identifying each and every row, because it is the primary key, we can now use it and we can say, well, hey, I have some other data over here and it's kind of linked to this. It's kind of linked to Mo Bini. And so I can use his ID, right? I can use his ID and I can say, oh, this is linked to Mo Bini. And yes, you can. That is the vital part of the relational model, the ability to draw relationships. And so how would that look? Well, let me show you. There is also something called the foreign key. And the foreign key is just this other terminology for saying, well, if the primary key is uniquely identifying my data in place, if I am going to reference data from somewhere else, well, I'm going to reference it by that primary key. Because, like I said, I want to uniquely identify Mo Bini. So Mo Bini is number 1. Well, if I went into the manager ID, I can see here M1, M2, M3. And so if I'm going to link that relationship, if I'm going to say, well, you know what? Clyde Bowie is the manager of Mo. Well, then I'm going to have to do that in a certain way. So we see over here in orange, the manager ID being the primary key of managers, M1, M2, M3. And so over here, we see the primary key, Mo Bini 1. And the manager of Mo Bini is done by drawing a relationship to manager ID. And the way we do this is by injecting a column. There is a new column in this table. And the sole purpose of this column is to manage that relationship, is to say, hey, well, Mo is managed by M1. So a foreign key references the primary key of a different table. Let me repeat that again. A foreign key is a key that will reference the primary key, the unique identifier of a different table, therefore allowing a relationship to be formed that is solidified in stone, more so than my fiance and I's marriage. I'm kidding there, of course. But that being said, with this, what you basically get is a relationship. And a relationship that is warranted by the fact that is linked to a key. And that key is unique. That key cannot be changed. That key cannot be deleted. Because if it is deleted, then it would cause issues throughout the system. We'll get into that part later. But that being said, what we need to know now is because we are referencing a unique key, and because we are injecting this column that says manager ID in the same table as the employees, well, now we know for certain that Mo's manager is Clyde Bowie. And that is how we link relationships. We link relationships by primary keys. And once you've created a relationship, a primary key, where it is injected becomes the foreign key. So now that we know all of that, we know the core of the relational model. We know the essence of why the relational model is the way it is. This unique way of drawing relationships is what makes it special. Amazing. Well, now we know the relational model. Now we know all of this stuff. Let's look at how these databases can be used.